techniques of different types of corporate restructuring and importance of valuation. So what is corporate restructuring? Friends, the definition of corporate restructuring is very simple. As and when you are effecting any change in the structure of a business or in the structure of balance sheet of a business, that is corporate restructuring. And I'm repeating. So anytime, whenever you are changing a structure of a company, a structure of a business, or whenever you are bringing change in the balance sheet of a company, that is referred as corporate restructuring. Now, why do the companies resort to corporate restructuring? And that is because to fulfill the purpose of the business, to fulfill the purpose of the business. And what is purpose of a business? The purpose of a business is to create value, is to create value. And what is the meaning of creating value? So meaning of creating value is to make this world a better place to live today than what it was yesterday. And that is creating value. So remember, all these corporates world over, what are they trying to do? With their products, with their services, what are they trying to do? With their products and their services, they are trying to make life of people easy, isn't it? So when a business organization is trying to make life of people easy, what that business is doing? That business is creating value. So what the businesses would like to do, all the business all over the globe, what they would like to do, they would like to do creation of more value. So they would like to creation of more value at lower cost, at lower cost. And not only that, please also remember that they also have to worry about something which is known as RM. And what is RM? RM is risk management, is the risk management. So if you analyze and think deeply, you will come to the conclusion all over the globe, in America, in Europe, in Russia, in Asia, in Middle East, in Australia, in New Zealand, in Japan, all over the globe, whenever there is an acquisition happening, whenever someone is resorting to corporate restructuring, his main driver is to help his business create more value and at the same time protect itself against the future risks. And that is how the corporate restructuring is not only a tool for achieving the purpose of the business, that is value creation, it is also a tool for risk management. So when a business is acquiring another business, or when a business is entering into a new product altogether, so what are they doing? They are diversifying. So when they are diversifying, they are obviously also achieving the purpose of risk management. So that, friend, is the corporate restructuring, and that is what is the purpose of corporate restructuring. And let us understand some of the benefits of the corporate restructuring. So when you do the corporate restructuring, number one, there is external and internal growth, does not need any explanation. There is an increase in the market share. There is a purchase of assets at a bargain price, and bargain price would mean to buy an asset at cheaper than what it would cost you otherwise, that is bargain price. Increased external financial capability. So when Tatas acquire Jaguar, or when the Tatas acquire any other company anywhere, so remember, their balance sheet becomes strong. When the balance sheet becomes strong, that means they have a better financial capability. Increased managerial skills and competencies, reduction in tax liability through tax planning, economies of scale. So obviously when Idea and Vodafone, when they merge together, so obviously there is an economies of scale. Likewise, when ArcelorMittal, which is world's largest steel and mining company, when they go on acquiring companies all over the world, they obviously achieve the economies of scale. Or when Adani is acquired different plants or different companies all over the globe, which are already in line with the current products that they are making. So that is again an example of economies of scale. Elimination or reduction of competition, enhanced power to face the competition, maximizing synergy benefits, market access, product access, technology access, right? So when Tata Steel acquires Chorus in UK, so immediately UK, the Tata Steel gets access in the European market. Or when Tata Tea acquires Tata Tetley, Tetley Tea in UK, again it gives an access to the European market. So there are many more such examples that you can think of. Enhancement of inherent business strengths, diversification of business interest, and maximization of value creation. So these, friends, are some of the benefits of corporate restructuring, for which the companies all over the globe will do the will resort to the corporate restructuring. Now the question is, how do you measure maximization of value creation? तो आप कैसे पता करेंगे कि कोई कंपनी वैल्यू मैक्सिमाइज कर रही है कि नहीं कर रही है? So there are many KPIs, there are many matrices that you can use, but 6 of the metrics that you would use for the purpose of measuring whether a business is creating value or not creating value. Number one is EBITDA, which I am sure all of you are fully aware. In case if you are not, you can ask me. EBITDA is earning before interest, tax, depreciation and amortization. EBITDA is also known as cash operating profit. So number one, whether a business is creating value or not creating value, you look at the EBITDA of that business. If the EBITDA of that business is growing, increasing year after year, that means that business is creating more value. OFCF is operating free cash flow. ROCE is return on capital employed, and I'm sure all of you are fully aware with these terms. EPS, of course, is earning per share. EVA is economic value added. So you look at these 5 KPIs for determining whether the business is creating value or it is not creating value. And finally, of course, to find out whether the business is creating value or not creating value, you also do the business valuation. तो आप एक कंपनी का वैल्यूएशन करते हैं, और जब आप कंपनी का वैल्यूएशन करते हैं तो आपको मालूम पड़ता है कि ये बिजनेस वैल्यू क्रिएट कर रहा है कि नहीं कर रहा है. सो इन केस ऑफ स्टार्टअप्स, nowadays you see every time when a startup is going for next stage of funding, you would see the valuation would have gone up. So I'm not saying that if they say the valuation has gone up, that means really the valuation has gone up. It is quite possible sometimes it may be only some jugglery which can become a big scam, as it happened in case of the Byju's. But assuming, whenever they're saying the next stage of valuation is higher, that means this startup in the intervening period has done something positive. As a result of that, the business valuation have gone up. So this is how you will measure the value creation by the businesses. Now let's look at, friends, some of the corporate forms of the corporate restructuring. Number one is merger and amalgamation. So the Brook Bond and Lipton Tea was an example of merger and amalgamation. Then you have another the type of form of corporate restructuring, that is absorption. So the Tomco getting absorbed by Hindustan Unilever, is that what it is. Takeover, so Consolidated Coffee being acquired, taken over by Tata Tea. Globally also, friends, I am sure all of us are aware that globally also today you can do the cross-border mergers and amalgamations. The Companies Act today allow the Indian entities as well as the overseas entities to resort to global cross-border mergers and amalgamations. Asset acquisition. So not only you can have merger and amalgamation or absorption or takeover, you can also have asset acquisition. So at one time, Hindustan Unilever did not acquire the Lakme as such. It acquired the Lakme brand per se. So the asset acquisition, as we were discussing, whenever there is a change in the business of a structure of a business, or whenever there is a change in the balance sheet of a business, it is a corporate restructuring. So asset acquisition is an example of corporate restructuring. The strategic stake. So sometime back, few years back, ArcelorMittal had acquired a strategic stake in a company called Uttam Galva. Uttam Galva is a company based in Maharashtra. And for strategic reasons, ArcelorMittal, which is world's largest steel and mining company, they acquired strategic stake in Uttam Galva, and that is, of course, subsequently Uttam Galva merged into ArcelorMittal. Buyback of shares is also an example of corporate restructuring. So TCS, Wipro, and Infosys, and many other companies, when they buy back their share, and I'm sure you can understand, when a company is buying its own shares back, obviously the balance sheet of the company is undergoing a change, because the share capital is going to undergo a change, reserves and surplus is going to undergo a change, the bank balance also is going to undergo a change. So that is, buyback is also corporate restructuring. Divestment or divestiture, so VSNL being acquired by Tatas, and Hindustan Zinc being acquired by Vedanta, because the government of India, who was earlier owning VSNL and the Hindustan Zinc, for strategic purposes, they decided to go for divestment or divestiture, and that's an example of corporate restructuring. Joint ventures, so Tata and Fiat joint venture, Greaves and Piaggio joint venture, ArcelorMittal and Nippon Steel, and also ArcelorMittal and Sumitomo Steel of Japan. So these are examples of joint ventures which are also corporate restructuring. DCM Group and Daewoo Motors coming together is also an example of corporate restructuring. It does not stop here. We still have many examples. So there can be a case of slump sale, right? Or there can be a case of demerger. So what happens in case of slump sale? So in case of slump sale, a company may decide, let's say for example, there was a company called Greaves. Greaves was in the business of making engines, and they were also in the business of making three-wheelers called Garuda. Unfortunately, the Garuda as a product did not succeed, and therefore the company decided to spin off the Garuda division as such. So they had two options. Number one was to go for slump sale, and number two was to go through the demerger. So in case of slump sale, what do? You sell the company not as a separate entity, but you sell all the assets and the liabilities together, and that is your slump sale. So in case of slump sale, the advantage is that you do not have to go to NCLT. Earlier you needed to go to a court, but now NCLT. So in case of demerger, you do not have to go to NCLT. The buyer and the seller only need to sign a contract, sign an agreement, listing out all the obligations and rights of both of them, and that is how you do the slump sale. In case of demerger, the example would be of L&T and Ultratech. Reliance demerging into four companies, when both brothers wanted to part ways, and Geo Finance, which earlier was part of the Reliance as such, but couple of years back, Geo was turned into another company. So that was a case of demerger. So in case of demerger, you have to go to NCLT, and what you have to do is a division of the company is created as a separate company altogether, and the existing shareholders will have the shares, the same shareholders which are the shareholders into the original company will also have the shares in the same proportion in the demerged entity. I understand that the Vedanta Group is also undergoing through the process of demerger, and it is understood that they will be demerging about 5-6 different companies from the current Vedanta operations. Equity carve out is another corporate restructuring. Spin off is another example of corporate restructuring. Split, delisting, I'm sure you can understand, is also corporate restructuring, because when you are getting your shares delisted, and the example would be of Castrol India, Philips, SR Shipping, SR Portal, SR Ports, and Alfa Laval. So these all are examples of corporate restructuring. Leveraged buyout, so acquisition of SR Steel by ArcelorMittal and Nippon Steel of Japan is an example of leveraged buyout. So what is leveraged buyout? When you are purchasing a company using debt as the source of funding the acquisition, that is known as leveraged buyout. So you are borrowing and using the borrowing for the purpose of acquisition, and that's known as leveraged buyout. Conversion of debt into equity, I'm sure you can very easily see this. So when the debt is getting converted into equity, obviously it is making an impact on the balance sheet of the company. The balance sheet is getting restructured, and therefore conversion of debt into equity is also an example of corporate restructuring. Now, what are the key weighing factor in case of?
Sorry for the interruption, sir, but can we take a break?
Oh yes, of course we can take a break. Yes, just 2 minutes, and then we'll take just finish this part, and then we'll take a break.
Okay.
Okay. So key weighing factors in case of corporate restructuring is the swap and the exchange ratio, and for determining the swap and the exchange ratio, you need to do the valuation. So how can we determine the swap ratio or the exchange ratio? Number one, by using the earning per share. Number two, by using the market price per share. And number three is by using the book value per share. Whatever it be, if you have to determine the market price, right? So you have to do the valuation of the company, or in case of book value per share also you have to do the valuation of the company so as to arrive at the swap ratio. Practically all over the globe, it is the swap ratio is always based on the value of the company. It is very rarely based on the earning per share. It is equally very rarely based on the book value per share. Invariably, the swap ratio, whenever there is a corporate restructuring, will be based on the market price of the share of that company, which is determined based on the valuation. So with this, we come to the closure of this part, and therefore we can of course take a break now. And so it is